Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be discussing Chapterhouse Dune by Frank Herbert, the last book in the Dune series. Or is it? I'm going to be talking about that in today's review. So it's difficult to speak about this book without referring to the series as a whole, although I might do a review of the whole series or a review with someone else in the future about all 6 books. I'll do a very brief look back now. It's said that Frank Herbert had meant to do 2 different trilogies connected with a bridging book in God Emperor of Dune, and he finished 1 book short. That's alleged. So he would have written 1 more book after this, and there's elements of this text that support that. There are some open-ended questions that are left. But also, the book could be read on its own, that Herbert only meant to do 2 books. In either case, we're never going to find out now. But when I think of series that I finished recently, I have to look at how I felt about them at the end to contextualize how I feel about Dune at the end. And the first one I can think of is Silo, which was a trilogy. And I was extremely satisfied with the ending. It delivered exactly what I think Hugh Wowey meant to deliver. However, there were very weak story points in the final book, and I think that the writing and the narrative urgency was much better in his first 2 books. So while the 3rd book was a bit of a letdown in that trilogy, I really appreciated the story as a whole. Then there's the Expanse series, which had 9 novels and I think 6 or 7 novellas. I don't know exactly. I've read them all. And by the end, when you get to the 9th book and the 10th novella, or the 9th book and the novella which happens after the 9th book, I feel, I don't want to use the term exhausted, but I felt like the series had run its course and the writing had only gone downhill, mostly. I thought that the first book outshone the other books, and I was only somewhat satisfied with the ending, and I just thought there was a lot of wasted potential in the series. I know I'm going against the popular notion of the Expanse there, but I can still appreciate elements of the series without thinking that overall it was very good. And when using those 2 bookends, Silo and the Expanse, when I come to this, I am satisfied with the construct that Herbert has given us, which is the first trilogy, where we have a known universe and rules and characters that we can know and love. And then thousands of years pass, we have this bridging book, and then a new set of characters who are literally like and different because they're clones, but they have their own personalities, their own trajectories. But this universe now is wild, it's unknown, it's full of possibility and choice that we didn't feel that we could really have. And obviously, Herbert is giving us these 2 different possibilities, this rules-based universe and this wild, free universe full of unknowns in every different way. And I think, obviously, that's a narrative that's worth exploring in and of itself. But you'll also see there's a tremendous drop-off in readership. Dune, the very first book in this series, is one of the finest novels I've read in any genre in the modern era, in the last 50 or 60 years. I wouldn't stack it up against classic literature, but I think for its time and for its subject, I think it's excellent. But the quality of the books drops off. It's not so steep, I think, as The Expanse, but that also you have decreasing readership. And I think that is its own testimony, right? That if the works were compelling, you'd have a level of readership all the way through. Like I would say probably something similar with The Lord of the Rings. It's, as you can see, it's back there on the shelf. It's not a short series, but people want to get to the end, and Lord of the Rings delivers in so many ways, not only with coherent and consistent storyline with characters that you love, but a very satisfying ending. And it's not an unexpected ending as well. You've got the happy ending and then the somewhat happy ending, but that's for another time. In any case, with Dune, as you look on YouTube and you look for reviews, you're going to see they drop off tremendously after, I think, Children, and then fewer for God Emperor, which is a divisive book on its own, and then Heretics even fewer, and then Here. And if you like the Bene Gesserit, this is definitely the book for you. I think it's pretty much Herbert's entire focus in the text. And yes, the Bene Gesserit can be used as a frame to talk about the other things in the Dune universe, but otherwise, we also have, unfortunately, as we saw in Heretics, a scene, which in this case is about a page and a half, relating to the Gola of Miles Tegg, which can be skipped for reasons related to how the honored matres exercise power, and which is a helpful sort of larger narrative on how sexuality can be used to force mankind to be controlled like puppets, which I think is a helpful storyline. I can see where Herbert was going, but I think he could have done it in a much more elliptical manner, or in an entirely different manner. But the last three books should only be read by adults with some kind of life experience to give them greater context. I don't think they can be recommended to teenagers for various reasons. Will I read further? Well, there is one more book that I'm going to give a chance, which is the first book in the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson extended universe of Dune, which is called Dune House Atreides. And if that book is worth reading, and the fandom is very split on these books. So Brian Herbert is Frank Herbert's son, and everyone keeps using the term allegedly about these notes that Brian Herbert found and then worked with Kevin J. Anderson on. But I find it difficult to believe that even if someone is grifting for money, that he would lie about finding notes from his dad. But I haven't looked into the matter very much. But the point is, they wrote a 2-part sequel to this, which, let's say, finishes the original Dune series. But I'm not going to read that now. I'm going to go back to this House Atreides book and see if I enjoy it. And if I enjoy it, maybe I will read on. I've given a lot of time. It's been a 2-year journey reading Dune that started with the pending release of the first Denis Villeneuve film, related to the first book. So I've got so many other books to read. I don't want to spend too much time in the Duneverse as it is, but I am willing to give one more shot, in a sense that I'm at the end of the Frank Herbert books, but I haven't read any of the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson works, and I'm willing to give that a shot. One shot, and we'll see how that goes. One last thing I really appreciate about what Herbert does in all these books, and I have marked quotes that reminded me of what he did in the original Dune book, which is the ability of single sentences or single epigraphs at the beginning of what passes as chapters in the book to encapsulate larger themes in the book, but also prepare you to read what you're reading next. And relating back to the idea of a wild universe, of there not being an imposed order, there's a real lesson here in the importance of having a student mind and having the ability to learn and not wishing to put yourself forward as an expert. This can serve you in many aspects of life, whether it be in religion or in your studies or in your work or in your personal relationships. If you don't consider yourself an expert, you have a plasticity of mind to learn and to be humble and to realize there's always something more that you can develop within yourself. And so I'll read some of those quotes now, which I think really hammer this home. The person who takes the banal and ordinary and illuminates it in a new way can terrify. We do not want our ideas changed. We feel threatened by such demands. I already know the important things we say. Then changer comes and throws our old ideas away. Understand nothing. All comprehension is temporary. What do you find behind a mountain? Another mountain. The writing of history is largely a process of diversion. Most historical accounts distract attention from the secret influences behind great events. Wow, I mean, that's a whole discussion in itself, isn't it? Given the phenomenon of death, all attachments in life are temporary. Souvenirs of memory must be only that, things to be taken up and fondled occasionally for evocation of past joys. No joy can be permanent. All is transient. This too shall pass away applies to all of our living universe. I mean, what a beautiful thought, and helpful, I think, to anybody with an open mind and an open heart. Never be an expert. That locks you up tight. It is often better to watch. There is an unconscious component to all human behavior. Words try to mask this. It's often better to watch what people do and ignore what they say. Disagreement between behavior and words is extremely revealing. Action speaks. So, if you liked what you heard here, feel free to go to the description and see all of the other reviews that I've talked about in this original 6-book series. I've linked to it in the description. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this with someone who likes the Dune series or might be interested in the Dune series, and this might get them started. I wouldn't obviously start here. This is the last book. It's not going to make any sense to you. You have to read the Dune books in order. And I think that's helpful because you can decide whether you want to keep going. I think most of us, after reading Dune, if we were interested in science fiction, we're going to keep going. Other people who are not, they might say Dune is enough. And on its own, Dune is a self-contained work, and you can read it and not read anything else, and I think still take away a lot from it. As I say, like, subscribe. If you want to buy this book, you can buy it using the link in the description. You can also buy something from my Amazon wish list, which is also linked there. Consider supporting my Patreon or become a YouTube member if you'd like to support it even more. And you'll get early releases of videos like this one. And as a reminder, in 2024, a portion of the proceeds from all these different revenue streams will go towards the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, which provides medical care to Palestinian children who could not otherwise receive it. They've always been a force for good for many years, but particularly in the last period of time, they've been incredible in their work, and they deserve your support. So whether you support the channel and indirectly contribute to their effort or support them directly, I would encourage you to do so. Until next time, enjoy your reading.